I was born in beer, luckily. Well, when you're young, you don't know what life is exactly. We were very poor. No benefits, no child allowance, nothing like that. When I got a bit older, the boats had to be wound up by a capstan with long poles fitting into an iron frame at the head of the capstan. But through walking round and round and winding the boat, you got a good feed of fish for the family for doing it. So that meant that there was some food to have. Out of the blue, my uncle was a baker, and I was 11, and he said, how would you like to help me out with the baking? I said, I can't bake. He said, no, don't worry about that, but you'll be able to chop the dough and weigh it for me to mold up some loaves of bread. Besides doing the baking, I really wanted to go out to sea. My father had an old rowing boat, so when I had a chance, I used to use that. And I soon realized that fish was abundant then. And by the time I was 17, I had saved a few shillings, well, quite a few. It would be equivalent to probably £10,000 now. But off my own back, I ordered a boat to be built for me. When I first started, I was making pots with several older chaps. There's certain things in those days you wouldn't have said to an old man, but if you behave yourself and you showed respect, then eventually they would like you and you'd become useful. And luckily, before I went too far out to sea and that, and had much experience, for some reason, I think it was before penicillin, the old men would get poisoned hands and arms sometimes. And in those days, everything that they put in the sea had to be pulled up by hand. There wasn't a winch in the boats. So they always had 2 men on the boat. So when an older man couldn't go, very often they'd say, boy, you jump in with me tomorrow? And I'd say yes. And the good bit for me is the old men said, now look here, boy, if you're going to give it a go out here, don't ever think that you've beaten it. Because if you do, one day it'll beat you, because it's got a mind of its own, the sea. One time when I went away from beer with a chap called Liz Miller, I remember going towards Lyme Regis, but out to sea as well, which was about 8 or 10 miles. Beer looked like it was further than the moon away on a choppy day. And he said, what's the matter with you, boy? I said, bit rough, isn't it? He said, no, it's all right, you'll be all right. He said, we only got another 20 to pull. We were heading against the waves now, but he said, all right now? I said, I don't know about that. I said, it's still a bit rough, isn't it? He said, you don't want to worry about that on here, this boat. And I said, what do you mean? He said, I got the third hand here. I said, I don't see anybody. And he just pointed to the sky. That was his belief. So it was another great experience for me about life. Now at my age, I never forget that my life's been down to the men that fought. And beer changed. Troops came in the area. At night when the German bombers were going over, you could tell the difference in the sound of their engines to English. So you knew they were going in over to bomb bigger cities than Beer. Bomber planes never took the cargo back to land. They always ditched it somewhere if they didn't get the destination that they were supposed to get. They didn't want to land with any bombs on their plane. When I started fishing in the winter in another boat, a chap called Fred Newton, we used to do trawling because there was few fish then to catch, but we very often caught like a rocket thing, and we never knew whether they were live or no, but you had it in this net and you couldn't shake it out, so you had to bring it onto the boat, and in the end he used to cut the net and free the rocket thing. We used to think it was a rocket because it was quite long with a fin, and we'd get it back on the gunwale of the boat and he'd put the engine full on, and then he'd say to me, now, and we'd throw it over the side, and we knew it wouldn't be too long for it at the bottom. We just had to hope that we got far enough away if it had blown up. I don't think you need to have an ambition of wanting bigger and better of everything in your life, because it'll make it not so pleasurable. If you don't owe anybody any money and you got a few bob more than you need every week, that becomes a great life.